Okay, Season 1, Episode 1, Cartman gets an anal probe. By the way, side note, this is what I look like in the morning. I'm probably going to be playing with my hair a lot, because it's just kind of a thing that I do. But anyways, as I mentioned in my intro video, the reason, well, what helped to get me into South Park is that, when I went to the Philippines, I got bootleg copies, and in my bootleg copies, for some reason, in Season 1, and, like, only in Season 1, there's this little fireside chat parody of Trey and Matt, like, speaking right before each episode. Only for Season 1. So, I watched that, and I made some notes, and then I watched the actual episode, and I made some notes on my computer. And, so yeah, it was just a nice little parody, and, like, it was really interesting to see Trey and Matt just kind of, like, over-the-top acting. Their hair was really different. I mean, it's kind of a thing that I noticed as a chick, I guess. Like, Trey, he had really bad bleach blonde hair, and that was a big thing in the 90s, and then Matt had his Jufro, so, like, that just... I like seeing Jufros, that makes me happy. And, they met... Okay, so they went to the University of Colorado in Boulder, and they met in film class, so... And they're always just trying to, like, they're trying to make each other laugh. That's how they make an episode. And I think that's really, really sweet when friends have been able to be friends that long. I mean, my best friend, we've known each other since the second grade, but we've been friends since middle school. And she's even my roommate in college now. And I have this other friend that I've known since I was in preschool. And we're still friends. I even hung out with her like a few days ago. But anyways, something that I found really, really, like, endearing about these fireside chats was that every time, like, the camera would zoom in on Trey and Matt's face and then zoom out, and there'd be a dog, but, like, in each frame there would be a different dog. Like, every time they zoomed out, it was a different dog, and I thought that was sweet. I don't even know how they got all these dogs, but whatever. And anyways, so this was the first episode, and they mentioned that this one was constructed entirely out of construction paper, and it took them months. And I believe them because, again, it looks like it is stop motion. And yeah, and South Park is a real place in Colorado, a place where Trey grew up nearby. And there is always weird stuff going around there, apparently. So, every time there was, like, a UFO sighting or, like, a cow abduction, it'd be in South Park. So, you know, that's cool. I actually saw a video of South Park once, of, like, the actual South Park, Colorado, and it looked boring. But I still want to go, because, you know, South Park. Anyways, so the episode itself started off just kind of how every other episode begins. And it was really interesting to see how, like, a lot of the characters are already in the background. So they already knew... I felt as if they already knew what characters they were going to use, how they were going to look like. And, okay, so in the beginning of the episode, you know, the boys are hanging out at a bus stop waiting for the school bus, and then Ike shows up. And I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, oh, well, I guess that's just how I guess that's how babies and toddlers are drawn by Trey and Matt. They just wanted them to look kind of funny. Then I find out a couple episodes later that Ike is Canadian. And it looks like Trey and Matt have a decent obsession with Canada. I'm not complaining. I mean, they've caused me to be obsessed with Canada. And honestly, now I want to move there. It's beside the point. Just, yeah, Canada. I wonder why they're obsessed with Canada. But anyways, in this episode, you can see how the children pick up stuff from the adults. Like, one of the first lines that Cartman says is, "Ike, stop being a dildo," and it's kind of like... Okay, when I first saw this, I didn't know what that was, but now, as an adult, I do, and it's just like, oh... But the thing is, Cartman doesn't know what he's talking about, but I just think that this little portion is a good testament of how... adults do things all the time, and they don't think that children pick up on it, but children really do, and kids are smarter than we think they are. I learned that the hard way. Yeah. But anyways, this is the first instance that we get to see of Kick the Baby, which is one of Kyle's special moves in the video game. I haven't really used it that much, honestly. I like his Elven Arrow one better. And also in the video game that is first mentioned here is the anal probe. And, well, like, in this episode, obviously, since it's the first one, it doesn't look very cleaned up, but they got really intricate in it in the video game, which I thought was really, really sweet. Okay, something that I found like interesting was how the heck did they get Isaac Hayes to voice Chef? Like, really, like, this just seems kind of random. Just, they got a decent, somewhat well-known celebrity because of, you know, the movie Shaft. They got him to voice Chef. That's so random. How did they get a... Oh, well, whatever. But in this episode, it's the first time where... It's because it's the first episode. Chef mentions... Oh, don't be so sad, children. It's Salisbury Steak Day with buttered noodles. And, like, okay, at my university, for some very weird reason, they either have one or the other. Never both. And every time I see Salisbury steak or buttered noodles, like, I just think of South Park. And every time it's, like... Because they only give us either one or the other. They're never together. Like, I always think, why don't we have them together? You know, Salisbury steak and buttered noodles. I should probably put on a comment for that. It's just, yeah, South Park has kind of invaded every source of my life now. And something, like, another thing that was in this episode was the character Miss Crabtree, who we all know was killed off in a later season. I think season 5? She was killed off later, like, she's just there screaming, sit down and shut up, and for some reason there's, like, a bird on her head. Why is there a bird on her head? I guess South Park just wanted to put a bird on it. But yeah, another thing that I noticed was that Kyle, he was running up and down the bus aisles, and I thought that that was well animated considering it was just construction paper. It looked hard, but kudos to you guys, like, to Trey and Matt for animating that scene. I just probably took a lot of work for Kyle to run up and down the bus aisle. But yeah, also... let's see what else. Yeah. So also on the bus, there was a couple fart jokes, and it's just kind of interesting how, like, even though, for the children, even though the situation that they are in is pretty dire, considering Ike just got abducted, wait, yeah, even though the situation that they were was pretty dire because Ike just got abducted, the kids were still laughing, because I think it was Stan who farted. So, I don't know, I thought it was kind of endearing because it's showing that they're still children. And in this episode, Officer Barbrady appears. I don't think he's been around in recent episodes, honestly. He was in he was in the video game. He's just kind of there. He doesn't do anything. But I miss Officer Barbrady. He was a good character. Like, a really dumb, interesting character. But we'll get back to him when he's actually, yeah. Okay. And then... Another thing that I thought was interesting was Mr. Garrison looks really different in this one. His face. I mean, like, his head is bigger and his mouth is lower. Excuse me. For some reason, it's allergy season for me. Anyways, Mr. Hat does not have eyes either. It's just kind of like his hat is covering his, yeah. And anyways, so in this episode, like, in the classroom, you can see a couple characters in the background. They don't speak at all, though. You see Kevin Stoley, Token, Clyde, Butters, Red, Dog Poo, Pibuski, and Pip. I'll get back to Pip later in another episode. But yeah, and it's just, yeah, so Kyle has a bit of psychotic breakdown, which is really interesting because he's usually very level-headed. Like, in recent episodes, I think. I guess, like, he started off as a psychotic character and he just changed over time. That's what I'm thinking, but whatever. Also, okay, so moving on from the, classroom scene to the lunchroom scene, you see a Jewish kid. He has the little curls on the side, and I thought that was kind of cool because I think it's Matt yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Matt who's Jewish. I thought that was, like, a cool shout-out to his heritage. And, so this is the second time in this episode that we see Wendy Testerberger. The first time was in The Spirit of Christmas. And, it's just kind of sweet to see Stan in love with her, because I just remember that at that age, even me as a kid, whenever I saw that person that I really liked, I'd freak out. I didn't throw up, thankfully, but I would freak out. And that was just I think that that's kind of a good throwback to to everyone's childhood, because there was always that one person that you had a crush on. that you would always freak out over, so I thought that was sweet. And oh, young love. But yeah, in this episode, after the kids tell Chef what happened about, like, Ike being abducted, they're like, Chef is like, why are you here? You guys need to leave now. And then he pulls the fire drill. So it's just really nice to see Chef care for the children. Even, like, but still, how the heck did they get Isaac Hayes to voice him? But yeah. Another clap for their animation style is that when the boys are walking around in the town, you could see the clouds moving behind them, and I thought that that was kind of cool. That, like, the little details make a big impact, I think, when it comes to animation. Also, in this episode, you get to see Tom's rhinoplasty, and that was even in the spirit of Christmas, I think. But yeah, that's just kind of a random thing. Yeah, just Tom's rhinoplasty. Fine, I don't know what would possess them to put that in there, but it's Trey and Matt, so whatever. Also, in this episode, you have Cartman and Officer Barbrady at the end singing "I Like to Singa," which is from a cartoon from 1936 called Owl Jolson, something like that. I remember seeing that cartoon as a kid, and then when I watched this episode, I freaked out a little bit because I was like, oh, it's kind of like, you know, when I was 5 years old again and I was watching that cartoon. It's a good cartoon, by the way. You should watch it if you have the chance. In this episode, you hear, it's the first time you hear Kyle scream out, okay, so Kyle gets hit by, like, a beam from the alien spaceship, and then Stan screams out, sorry, Kenny gets hit by the beam from the spaceship, and then Stan screams out, oh my god, you killed Kenny, and then Kyle screams out, you bastards. This is the first time Kyle screams out, you bastards, after Stan says, oh my god, you killed Kenny, because even in the spirit of Christmas in both of them, Kyle didn't scream out, you bastards. But yeah, so Kenny doesn't die from the beam. He gets hit by cows and he doesn't die, and then he gets hit by a car and then he dies. And Kyle is able to take off his head, which is interesting. But one thing that I did want to note in this episode is that, like, Stan totally ditches Kyle for Wendy. Like, Kyle needs help because, hello, his brother got abducted, but then Stan is just like, no, I'm gonna go make out with Wendy. And Stan, that's not very nice to do to your friends. So Stan's kind of selfish, but I don't know, like, when you're that age, you tend to do that because you do want... Well, I will admit that I did stuff like that because I wanted that boy to like me. Turned out better for Stan, though. Anyways. So in this episode, then they switch over from, like, a scene outside to a scene indoors. And this is, like, the first time we get to see Miss Cartman, Eric's mom, Leanne Cartman, I think her name's Leanne, I'm pretty sure it is, and she just kind of, like, at first I was like, wow, she pretty much worships her son, because she's like, here's some powdered donate pancake surprise, and have a chocolate chicken pot pie, which sounds disgusting, and then she yells at Eric to go hang out with his friends, and yeah, so, I don't know, Miss Cartman always had, like, an interesting dynamic with Eric. I mean, she basically worships her son. But in the Tist episode where there was, like, Caesar the dog whisperer, that was, like, the first time she ever, like, stood up to him, I think. Or one of the first times. But we'll get to that when we're there. But yeah, let's see. Also, another thing, like, throughout the episode, and even in South Park episodes now, there's, like, random pictures of people everywhere, and random, like, motivational pictures, like, especially in the school, which I always found was kind of funny. Yeah, so also in this episode, we get to see Cartman's narcissism for the first time. He was looking at crop circles on, the news, and then he was like, oh my gosh, that crop circle looks like Tom Selleck. I will be honest and say that I don't really know who Tom Selleck is. I'm pretty sure I've looked him up a couple times because of South Park, but I still don't really know who he is or what he looks like. I think he's an actor. I'm pretty sure he's an actor. That's about it. And then, yeah, this is the first time that I think it's the only time, too, that Cartman screams out, "No, kitty, this is my pot pie." Like, I just think it's a funny, like, one of the funniest lines ever. I don't think it's, I don't think it's come up again. Excuse me, allergies. I don't think it's come up again, quite honestly. Could be wrong about that. Anyways. But in this episode, something that I really appreciate is that they had a strong female character, I think, in Wendy Testerberger. And, you know, Wendy Testerberger is a pretty good character, I think. She progresses a lot more throughout the other episodes, more than just, you know, being that girl that Stan really likes. But in this one, she was like, hey, you know, if you want to get back the aliens, why don't we use Cartman since there's an anal probe in him? Like, Wendy's pretty smart, and from what I remember reading, I forgot who's, like, I don't remember if it was Trey or Matt, but they were dating this chick at the time, and they based Wendy Testerberger off of her, which I think is really sweet. Like, if I was in a relationship, I would like my significant other to do something like that for me. So, yeah. Okay, something that, like, I found really interesting is that they never said the word aliens in this episode. They always referred to the aliens as visitors. Whatever. Okay, so also, in order to get the aliens attention, they tie Cartman to a tree, which, like, oh well, child logic. They tie Cartman to a tree, and like, the second time this happened is in season 3, episode 2, Spontaneous Combustion. They basically crucify Cartman, so it just kind of reminded me of that. And, I remember that in this episode, that Cartman was like, how come everything today has involved things either coming out or going into my ass? This is completely immature. And I think that is Trey and Matt being self-aware at that point, because they know that the stuff that they're doing is kind of immature. And that's something that I always appreciated about South Park. It's very, very self-aware. And not a lot of shows are like that, but I enjoy shows that are like that are self-aware and realize this is really stupid, or this is inappropriate, or what were we thinking? And South Park is one of the best when it comes to that. And then, okay, so when we get to the aliens themselves, they're speaking in cow, saying moo a lot. And in the video game, it's the exact same thing. They just said moo. But fine, whatever. And, okay, I just kind of thought it was funny when the cows were like, okay, so why did you turn one of us inside out? And then the aliens respond, oh, that was Carl's fault. He's new. I just always... Jokes like that are funny to me. It's so-and-so's fault. He's new. Like, that was always just kind of funny for me. And then, okay, so then, like, from that scene, they went on to the spaceship, and Ike was, like, standing on the spaceship. So Kyle screams out, do an, allergies, I'm sorry. Do an impersonation of David Caruso's career. And I honestly didn't know who that was. And then I looked him up, and I realized that it was, Horatio from CSI Miami. And from what I understand, he didn't have very good luck in the 90s. He was nominated for a few Razzies. Yeah. I think that's, like, one downfall of South Park. I think that they date themselves by, like, having year-specific references. And I'm not really saying that's a bad thing, because sometimes that's the only way that a show can progress and gain a bigger audience, but, like, this episode came out in 97, and I was 3 years old at the time. I was born in 94. Like, just some of the jokes kind of fall flat on me because I wasn't at a good age when the episode came out. I barely knew how to speak at this age, I think. I don't know. Okay, so moving on. It was interesting how when Cartman got taken up by the aliens, no one really cared. No, actually, like, Kyle didn't even care that Ike was taken up. He was just, like, he freaked out a little bit, but he still went to school. And, like, even Chef was like, what are you doing here? You should probably go out and find your little brother. And, like, when Cartman got taken up by the spaceship, no one cared. Really. But, oh well. He always kind of had that, but whatever. And then, okay, so then after that, Kyle and Wendy, sorry, I get them mixed up sometimes. I shouldn't. Wendy and Stan talk, and then, Stan throws up, but then they start talking about what's in his puke, and I thought that was really sweet in a really weird way. And then, Chef starts singing about making love. And I love that song. It's a strange one. And, I thought it was really interesting how, at the end when Cartman comes back and he falls out of the sky, like, his mom didn't even care. He says, like, guys, I had a dream last night, and it was kind of like basically he repeated what was at the very beginning of the episode, and it just kind of reminded me of essay writing, because your introduction should always, because your conclusion should always make a reference to your introduction. Yeah, I learned stuff. And, at the very end, Cartman says that, oh yeah, Scott Baio gave me pink eye. That's kind of another reference that is 90s specific, because I know who Scott Baio, like, I know what Scott Baio looks like, I just don't know if he's done anything, or what he did at that era. So yeah, thank you for hearing me ramble. I think that my ramblings are longer than the episode itself, but I'm hoping that as time goes on, I will get better at this, because mind you, this is like the third time I don't even know, this is like the second time I've done this. I'll get better, I'll try to. So, thanks for watching, and look out for the next episode. Bye!